Welcome back to Speak Your Own Business. Today is World Entrepreneurs Day, and I wanted to dedicate this episode to the people behind the businesses, the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the dreamers, the doers, the movers, the shakers, all of them people who are constantly trying to make things happen. Because today isn't about celebrating all these polished success stories that we see, it's about celebrating the reality of entrepreneurship. Things like the early mornings, the late nights, the risks, the sacrifices, the losses that you take, the wins that nobody sees, and the setbacks that nobody knows about. Whether you're running a huge business with a team behind you or you're doing everything by yourself from the kitchen, if you are building something, you are an entrepreneur and we are proud of you. And sometimes we forget to celebrate that because we celebrate, the big milestones, the success, the growth, the finished product, but we don't always talk about everything it takes to get there. So today, this is what we're talking about. Because being an entrepreneur isn't about getting everything right. It's about learning, adapting, getting back up, and continuing to move forward. So, to every entrepreneur listening, whether you have just started your journey, whether you're many years into your journey, this one's for you. And today, I'm joined by someone who might know a thing or two about making things happen. So, let's get into it. Hi, Jem. How are you doing? Please introduce yourself.
Hey, Kiana, I'm Jem. Some call me Jemiah. I love the world of entrepreneurship, of trying to make things happen, uh, trying to bring ideas to life, and been involved in a few things across esports and music. And I'm looking to reignite some of those passions that I put aside during the COVID period. So, yeah, um, here to speak about entrepreneurship and world of business.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. So you mentioned you've been kind of part of like the esports world. Can you give us a little bit of context on what kind of projects you've been part of in the past or even now, and let us know how you got there, who you were involved with, if you're able to, your journey, really.
Okay, so esports is essentially competitive video gaming. So for all those parents who love or hate watching their children play them games, their Fortnites and the Call of Duties and stuff, esports allows them to compete, often for cash, sometimes just for the fun of it. And so I was trying to bring grassroots esports to the UK because the UK is one of the biggest gaming markets in the world. It's up there in the top six. And but one of the things we are behind of over here is actually the grassroots level. So allowing these gamers, young or old, to try and get to that professional level. So I was putting on events with Reading Football Club, Broad Street Mall, Chelsea Football Club to host and give experiential esports events so that the youngsters can come and have fun. And it wasn't just the youngsters as well, it was people of all backgrounds. We had people like 50 plus, children as young as four, who'd all come and compete to play games such as FIFA and Street Fighter and other games. So that was really cool because not only was I looking at it from the esports standpoint, but also from the community, the social standpoint, because a lot of the youth clubs and the things that the youngsters like to do were taken away or lost through funding. So I've had that privilege to work with some of these cool institutions, but yeah, working alongside EA Sports and Sony PlayStation, Ubisoft, and a few other massive publishers as well. So it's been fun.
It does sound fun, and we love the fact that you mentioned community there, which is something we're very big on, like helping people around us, networking, bringing in people, involving them around us. So, yeah, that sounds like you've got a solid experience behind you there. So, when you hear the word entrepreneur, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I kind of, someone as an entrepreneur, someone who tries to make things happen. Typically, they're someone who either are bringing ideas to life, so they've got an idea for a business or a venture, and they take that idea and start executing on it to bring that to life to a product or service to market. And there's either some who either acquire, buy a business or take over a business and start leading that as well in the growth aspect. So I really look at entrepreneurs as someone who's willing to take on risks a bit more and try to create something often out of nothing as well.
Mm, I do agree with that. I think it's just people, I would say like problem solvers, right? They see a
Yeah.
problem and they they create a solution. They just make things happen, really.
Yeah, for sure. By nature, you have to be a problem solver and entrepreneur. And the bigger the problem you try to solve society, usually the bigger your reward as well.
Mm. And I do find that really interesting. So you mentioned that phrase by nature. Okay. So interesting question then. Do you think people are born with certain characteristics, or can anyone develop an entrepreneurial mindset?
Oh, it's interesting. I've seen this before. I think a big part of it is your environment kind of shapes you as
Yeah.
well. I think if you are in an environment where you're either forced to or you're allowed to express yourself or be in a position where you kind of have no other choice to
Mm,
set to try and create your own because you may be marginalized from a certain opportunities or you've seen a problem it's not being solved or you try to there's all sorts of different stories you hear of like different founders coming out and you see like their origin story in different ways of they saw a problem wasn't being solved, so they tried to solve it themselves, or
mm,
they wanted a job opportunity. They couldn't get into that industry, so they started and made their own competitor. You see all these different types of things. So I think your environment massively shapes. And the reason why I say that as well is because some of it is, I think it's a bit of both, because there's certain learned behaviors you'll see, and it doesn't mean necessarily you have to come from a family of entrepreneurs. You might just see others, or
yeah.
you build up this level of adversity or grit, or high agency is actually the thing that I think is most important for entrepreneurs. Like they believe that they can shape their own future.
Hmm.
And so if you're high agency, you either learn that from people around you or your circumstances almost force you if you're inclined that way to
Mm,
do it. But there is that, I think there is that almost level of nature side slightly in terms of there are some people who are a bit more who can handle the
yeah.
stress and pressures and ventures in certain ways a bit more. And so we don't obviously choose how resilient we are in that way. And yes, I think it's a bit of both, but I definitely think, yeah, you're shaped by your environment and the opportunities around you.
No, I do agree with that. I know people, conversations that I've had with people around me as well. Some of them will say they've got brilliant ideas, but they'll say, "Oh, no, I can never have my own business. I'm just not like that." And I think, what does that mean? Because what does that really mean? Because does it mean that you lack confidence in yourself? Do you have a lack of self-belief? Is it because other people are telling you you can't do it? Or
It's
you feel like you
mindset
don't have
for
the
sure.
tools or resources? What do you
It's
think?
definitely mindset for sure. That's why I think there's a bit of, and you can see people where their mindset has shifted from I can't do it to I can. And I
Yeah.
think it's also like what your diet is like. What's your information diet? So which books are you reading? Which friends and family or acquaintances or colleagues are you speaking to? Which podcasts are you listening to? What type of videos are you watching? And so if you don't have that self-belief, those things, those factors that I just mentioned can actually help you
Mm,
incite that self-belief or diminish that self-belief. So there are ones where, we've even seen origin stories of people where they never really believed they were an entrepreneur, but they
yeah.
started creating and then things kind of took off, or they had a friend, family, or parent or someone who encouraged them
Mm,
to start pursuing a venture. And so I think, yeah, you do need people who really are going to like encourage you. If you don't do it for yourself or have that, that intestinal fortitude or self-esteem where like, okay, I can do this, I've got this. It
mm.
is all about what you're taking in. Because the self-belief is everything. If you don't have the self-belief, you won't start.
Yeah, and I think also an element to that is some people wait for the perfect conditions or the right conditions to start. Oh, I'll do that when I've got this amount in the bank, or I'll do that when I've got this capital behind me, or when whatever. But then quite often, again, I'll have that conversation with people and I just say, well, you're going to be waiting a lifetime then. Your whole life will pass you by because there's no such thing as the perfect time. You have to create the circumstances in order to do that. And,
Yeah, it's like there's no perfect time. That sometimes there's better times for certain things, but often with life, if you just keep delaying certain things, you may not end up doing it. You end up giving yourself excuses. And you need to, it's just like, it's like going to the gym. You need to build those reps. So in order to be amazing or brilliant at anything, you need to be willing to be bad or terrible at it at the start. So you will
yeah.
make mistakes. There's gonna be tons of hurdles. There's always challenges. And the sooner you jump in the swimming pool and start trying to learn how to swim, the faster you can become. a better
Mm,
swimmer than if you have a coach, someone trying to help you swim, aka a mentor or other people, even if you don't necessarily have them in person, because you may not know anyone or you're in a small village somewhere or a small town, you don't have anyone around you. You can have your own virtual mentors by watching people online,
yeah.
whether it's Alex Hormozy, Emma Greed, Stephen Bartlett, Chrissy Seller, whoever it is, and begin to learn from them and
Mm,
their information from their books and so forth and podcasts. And then you can almost use these their virtual mentors to help you build.
yeah, I think people are so scared to fail, but they don't recognize that failure is a stepping stone to success. You have to fail so many times. And that's something a lot of people from the outside don't see with entrepreneurs or business owners. You can look at someone, take Alex Hormozy, like you were saying, whoever, if you ask him how many times he failed, I guarantee it's going to be hundreds. But people are only focusing on the success. But you don't understand how many times he's fallen down, but he's had to pull himself back up and carry on. And that's what I think defines an entrepreneur. Someone who isn't just knocked down by, I don't know, the first obstacle or conflict. They get back up, they try again, they do it differently, they learn, they adapt, they grow, and they keep it moving. That's what that's my belief there anyway. And
Yeah, for sure.
I, I I don't know if you believe this, but I've heard people say you have to be slightly delusional to be entrepreneurial. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think for some people they look at it as delusion. I have heard that you do need a level of delusion. I think partly that becomes from mainly the outside voices, the naysayers, if you will. Because I
Mm,
actually think a lot of if you see a problem and there's a problem that can be solved, whether that's locally in a society or globally, you can see it's a very real problem and you think I'm the one who can solve it.
mm,
That where that delusion, I guess, comes in is because you're going to have pretty much the majority of people around you going, you can't do that. You're not qualified. You're not an engineer. You're not this. You're not that. How do you
yeah,
do that? You haven't got the money. You haven't got the contacts. You haven't got the means. So I think that's where the delusion, it almost comes from the negativity and the pessimism, is what I would
yeah,
say. But that self-belief, that conviction to do it, you 100% do need it. And I yeah, you do need to put the reps in, using gym as an example. If you go to the gym, okay, I want to bench press 100 kg and you've only started today, the majority of people won't be able to do it, but you can work your way up to
yeah,
it. But to do that, you have to put in the reps. So at
yeah,
first you start, you learn the technique, you get the form, you get tight. You probably get someone to spot you. You might have someone who's either, because you've never been to the gym before, you get someone who's either coaching you in person or you've watched something online and you've learned. And then you start practicing. And then you get to eat well, sleep well, train well. And then eventually, over some time, whether that's weeks, months, or years, you can get to that 100 kg. Similar thing with your entrepreneurship goals. You're going to have to put in the reps and the sets and there's gonna be knockback. So you might try push, I'm trying to push the 30, can't get the 30. But you keep going, a couple of weeks later, you might be able to do the 30. Then you try to get to the 40, and then again, you might fail at the thing, but then eventually you can step your whole way. So
mm,
anyone who's tried to lift or push or even train, if you're running, you're sprinting, there's times you hit the wall. You can't get
yeah.
that time as much as you want. You didn't get that 4 minute mile just yet. You didn't lift as heavy as you wanted to just yet. But you keep failing, but you don't stop because you failed. You keep going.
Yeah, it's about the consistency as well. That's what I believe differentiates, good or average from like the best. If you're consistent at something, you're going to become better at it the more that you do it. And you have to allow room for you to fail because you're allowing room for growth, right? How to do it better, keep refining. But I
Failure
think,
is
carry on.
So I was going to say failure is actually the entry requirement for success. You
Yeah.
actually need to fail because no one gets it. It doesn't matter how attractive you are, how intelligent you are, how well connected you are. Where you will get barriers. You'll get blocks from maybe potential investors, from potential customers, clients, partners. You're going to get resistance, right? You may have it mitigating circumstances such as COVID. Things will block you and prevent you in different things.
Mm.
But you need to be able to endure those hurdles that come in. It's like me and you. If we both have no sales experience at all, and we're trying to start a company, say you're company A and I'm company B, we don't know each other. You in company A, if you're making, say, 1,000 calls a week, trying to close deals, and I'm making 10 clients, 10 calls a week,
Mm.
look at the rate you're at learning compared to me. So
Yeah.
you would be you'll be doing 100 times more calls than me. So not only will you increase your chance of securing a new client, also all those 1,000 calls, that feedback you're getting, you're learning why people are saying no, the objections, what they're looking for, all of that. You're learning all that data at a minimum 100 times faster than me, and it's actually compounding over time. Because by the time that we've done finished the month, I've done 40 calls, you've done 4,000 calls. You would, and over time, it just keeps compounding like that. And you're getting smarter and faster by doing the same thing because you're doing more reps and putting in more sets. And so you're more likely to grow quicker and land that client. So it's actually about putting in the work
Mm,
and being willing and able to get that failure.
yeah. And it's sometimes it's not just professional development, right? It's personal development. I think the biggest thing that being a business owner, the thing that it's taught me, you always think, oh, you're learning this skill so you can grow your business, so you can do this. It's actually developed me as a person because you have to become more resilient. You have to know how to deal with things, how to deal with people when these problems come up. You have to learn how to do it in an empathetic way. You have to learn how to talk to people, how to read behaviors. There's so much. I had to learn sales skills. I hated picking up the phone and I still hate it, but you have to do it. And so you get through all of that. You think, I don't want to do it, but you have to. And I think that's just the thing. And now I feel like I've developed as a person. I've got more confidence as a result. I believe in myself. Someone can come and tell me, oh, you won't be able to do that. No, I will. I will. So it's almost like you start to block out the all the external noise and you're just focusing because you have a goal and you're going to achieve your goal.
Yeah. It's like that's what it is, you know. This trying is the entry cost for
Yeah.
getting to where you want. Because once you do things, you give yourself those personal case studies. It's like if you picture yourself when you're a child. When you're a child, say like if everyone you're all running outside and you're all sprinting and playing, you all race. That's the thing that everyone does. Children always racing each other. Now, the first time you might feel fast, but say like okay, you're racing all the children in the neighborhood
Mm,
all your friends around the area, and then you run, and then you realize you're the fastest. You're like, oh, you beat everyone in the race. You're like, okay, you've given yourself now a case study. Okay, I'm pretty fast because there's 10 of us here, and I've won this race. So you've got
yeah.
more confidence. And then so next time when you go, you're at school and you're going through life, you're running around in the playground, wherever else, the more time you keep racing, and you keep winning and stacking these things, you're giving yourself a case study. Actually, I'm pretty quick. Even if you don't win every race, you begin to realize I'm fast. And it's like, it's that ability to give yourself those case studies by trying things. So, oh, I actually landed a client. Oh, I made this partnership. Oh, I created this podcast. I was invited to this event. And the more of these case studies you build internally for yourself, that self-belief just keeps stacking and that confidence when you're just like, okay, cool, I actually can do this. And you can start compounding on that and build that momentum to keep going in the right direction.
100%. And obviously, you have experience, right, with limited companies and you've done things as well. So when when things aren't necessarily going to plan, well, I'm sure you have examples of that. We all do, right? But you still have to keep moving. What do you do? How do you keep moving?
I think for me, I think the simplest thing, like anytime there's an issue, I try to essentially remember where I'm trying to get to, like the North Star, if you will, and strip back anything that is deviating me from there. So I'd rank everything on what's the priority to get me there. So I remember not only was I doing esports events, an example of that is when I used to do live music streaming. So this was back when streaming wasn't as popular as it is now. Everyone's streaming nowadays. Everyone's got Netflix, Disney, Amazon, all the rest, streaming on their phones, streaming on TikTok, all of the different platforms. But this was back when streaming was still kind of new and the internet infrastructure wasn't as tight globally where people can just stream with such high quality bit rate and so on. So I was privileged to work with Bernardo's charity. Obviously, most of us in the UK know who they are, one of the biggest children's charity in the UK. And for their I think, 150th anniversary, they had Joss Stone and some other music artists, Joss Stone and Friends, performing live down at the Roundhouse in London. Now, I was speaking to Joss and the team and Bernardo's, I was essentially trying to say, hey, I want to live stream this to all the Joss's fans around the world. So if you're not in London, in the UK, you can watch it live. And Joss has a massive contingent of fans in South America in particular. So this is brilliant for them because if you're in Brazil and all the rest, you can't all just privileged enough to get to London. So watching it live was the next best thing. So a challenge that I had was this time I was doing all of this on my own, negotiating the contracts, speaking to both Bernardo's and Joss's team, trying to make sure they're happy, talk about, rev share, all these different things. And
Mm.
then getting in a production team, high quality TV standard to go down there, project manage that so that they could broadcast this all out, going to see venues, all these different things. First time doing this all as well on my own. And then, but the time I actually closed this deal was less than 2 weeks out. And we still had to market the event and try to sell it all as well, like all the tickets and make sure all the fans and everything know. So that big challenge, yeah, it was less than 2 weeks. And anyone in the marketing knows you always want loads of lead time, right? That's why we see our favorite movies.
Yeah.
They start
Yeah.
start advertising, putting trailers out a month in advance, sometimes years in advance for our biggest blockbuster movies, right? We're seeing it right now, the Avengers.
Mm.
And so you know how important lead time is, and especially if you didn't have a massive platform, which I didn't at that time. But what I tried to again focus on there was about. So what I did instead of being consumed by where I was at, I was like, okay, let me focus on what I can do. So this was, I was like, I'm going to market this, get to all Joss's fans. I essentially had to go and ask Joss and her team as much detail about her fan base as I could. And so I got some really cool insights on the fan base, the kind of demographic, all these different things. And this for me was one of the times as well when Facebook ads, still brilliant now, but they were really amazing. And so what I did with all the info that I had, I went and advertised, targeted all of their contingents, different languages in Spanish and so forth, had assets created. I was doing all of this. This is before AI as well. And then went and got the event and it became a really successful show online. And so that
Mm.
was a bit of adversity and a bit of struggle in terms of the time because I had to do it in a way to make sure that Bernardes and Joss was happy. But yeah,
Mm. Wow. Okay. And if we were to go back, say, to the beginning of your business journey, say, before you started your first business, what is one piece of advice, business advice, that you would give your younger self?
the actual biggest piece of advice I would give my younger self is to do more reps,
Mm,
to do
more.
even more. I
Yeah.
think, I remember like I'm a fan of what sort of like Gary Vee's business advice. And one thing I remember he was talking about one day he might just bring out a book called Volume. Because I think volume is actually the word that really encapsulates everything.
Mm,
I would do more calls, do more networks, do more handshakes, do more emails, just do more.
mm,
Because eventually that was where I was getting all these learnings from when I was talking to all these different music artists, different gaming companies, different venues. I was like, okay, cool. They're saying yes. This is why they said yes. Okay, I priced that too low. I actually undersold myself. If I was more expensive, they would have said yes. And that taught me things about
yeah.
pricing.
Yeah.
Like there was all of these different things. And I remember doing that with the script. Script, great brands, speaking to them, undersold. Yeah. And so that was, I learned so much. Price too low, could lose a deal.
Mm,
Your speed of recovery in terms of your response time, how quick do you respond to emails, how quick, all of these different things, how you present yourself because you're young and you got all these different
mm,
things, you're being profiled in different ways. And also even that, like, if the expectation of you is down there, but your impact is hit, all of that gap is impact. All of
yeah.
that impact. So they
Yeah.
think they kind of, oh, this just this young guy. He's not in the industry. What does he know? Who is he?
Yeah.
So forth. But you're up here and you're performing, delivering up here. All of that's impact. Whereas if they think you're up here and you deliver up here, it's not the same impact. So
Yeah.
when I was coming in with, they're like, oh, this young guy, he's not in music, he's not in
Yeah.
gaming, he's not got these contacts, he's not coming from a big brand. So it wasn't Jemiah from Apple, Jemiah from Spotify. So there was no brand leverage behind me, but you're securing these deals and partnerships that just brought impact. So I do volume, would I say?
I guess they're like, wow, like what is going on? Who is this guy? And it almost captures their attention even more because they're so intrigued by what you're offering. But that's a good bit of advice there. Just do the reps, do more reps. I like that. I think this is gonna sound maybe I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but if I was to go back to when I first started this business, I would probably just tell myself like, do not listen to anyone, friends, family. They might mean well, but have you ever had it? One frustration that I have, or something that's quite difficult for me to deal with, is people who don't understand the business world. You know, I mean, you've heard me talk about it. They just don't understand what it's like to run a business, to have to do this, to make things happen. They don't understand it's not the same as getting up and going into your work and you've got a start time and an end time. No, because your brain doesn't switch off. There's not a right or a wrong there. It's a completely different world. And when you're surrounded by people who don't understand it, it's very difficult to navigate and to carry on moving forward because they might tell you, oh, why don't you just have a break? Or why don't you just, and they're not wrong in what they're saying. Yeah, it's good to rest, but they don't get it. And so I would say as well, like it took me, I then surrounded myself, became part of a business community, surrounded myself with business owners and entrepreneurs with the same similar mindset. And that helped hugely. So I would just say surround yourself with people who are business owners because the thing is, they'll get it. And that's nothing against people who don't. It's just the reality of it. And I've come to realize that. I don't know if you found that at any point at all.
Yeah, I've got two things here. So I think, yeah, if you can, it's great. If you're with people who are trying to do similar things, you can push and encourage each other on. It's like training, right? If you
Yeah,
start jogging, you want to get fit. If you've got a friend or a neighbor or someone close to you and they want to get fit too, and you're both trying to get your Mo Farah on, you can push each other to keep training and make
yeah.
sure, oh yeah, it's raining, let's go. Oh, it's a bit hot. Yeah, let's
Accountability.
still go.
Yeah.
And you can, the accountability partner, you can help each other, right? Incite each other to greatness. And so it's the same thing with business. If you need to, some people from a small town, a small village, and they feel like I need to get around others who are like me. So they move to these bigger cities, the New Yorks and the Londons and the San Francisco, etc. Because proximity can be a massive factor because you can be at a networking event or a certain space where you get the like-mindedness, which can help. But yeah, I do a lot of our naysayers sometimes are the closest ones to us. Sometimes it is because from a place of protection as
Yeah.
well. However, I was quite fortunate in the fact that I never really had that. My parents and my close ones are actually kind of the opposite in a way. They had a lot of faith and belief in me, and they still do, even if they don't fully understand. Because I know for example,
Yeah.
like, my parents don't really understand anything I do, but they've always kind of pushed and encouraged, and sometimes even like saying too much, because they don't fully understand it. But they're always, oh yeah, that sounds good. Like anytime I say anything to my mum. Anything
Mm.
else will never like, oh, that sounds silly or that won't
Yeah.
work, whatever else. And it's almost even sometimes that say less, that's a really actually encouraging thing because I know often people get the opposite. Like, oh, why would you do that? Or you're not qualified
How
that.
are
Why
you
are
going to
you
do that? How on
how are you
earth
gonna
are
do
you
that?
gonna
How are you gonna
believe
switch
them
to
to say
that
that?
music artist? How are you gonna do this esports thing?
Yeah.
How are you gonna get into property? Like whatever it is.
They
So
project their fears onto you.
mm,
Um, but it comes back to
yeah.
what I was saying. You just have to be stronger than that. Your mindset and your vision needs to be stronger than that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I said about your information diet. Sometimes
Yeah.
if you're in that kind of space where you feel stuck and stranded, this is where if you can't find anyone, if you're not able to be in one of these places, where you can move or go to a big town or city near you or find others. And there usually is, even if you're in a small place, you still find
Yeah.
like-minded ones. But if you can't find them near you geographically in real life, physically, just try to make sure what you're taking in online, what you're listening to, your podcast, what books you're reading and stuff, are just positive and those kind of people, so you can ingest that and then begin to apply it and then help work yourself to that position and then eventually you have to grow and hopefully move on to where you want to get to.
Some good advice. Yeah. So I have a couple of questions for you. Do you think successful entrepreneurs have anything in common?
Yes, I do. So
What is
I think there's
it?
I think there's a few things. So I think you need to have a high level of optimism, self-belief, perseverance, grit, resilience, and B, high agency,
Okay.
meaning you feel like you're in control of your own destiny.
Yes, I love it. And what is one thing every entrepreneur should get comfortable with?
Failing, setbacks, adversity, because it happens, however well connected, however, we see it with big businesses, right? We see it with some of the most successful organizations, individuals in the world, they face things. I've even I'll give you a small example. Elon Musk, wealthiest man in the world, super famous, South African, but his Starlink project has been blocked in South Africa, his own country that he's born in. So you'd think of his wealth, his influence, his connections, his political connections, he'd be able to get Starlink in South Africa, but he's facing that resistance. So even at that level, if someone's wealth and influence, you still have to get over hurdles and different challenges. It's just bigger scale at that level.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And yeah, like you said, you would think he would be able to do that. I think people think, oh, Elon Musk, he can do anything. Just shows he can't.
Mm.
Always going to be
Yeah,
obstacles.
exactly. And
No.
that bit there, he doesn't stop because he can't get into his own country. He'll still continue to put it into other countries.
Interesting. So I just want to do a little quick fire question session to wrap this up then. I'm going to ask you a question and then you just have to, if you can, do one word answer on the spot. Um, So are you ready? Lock in.
Where's your resilience? Um,
Okay, first of all, best business lesson you've learned.
in one word?
I mean, or phrase, or just as short as you
Oh, okay.
can. Like, boom.
That really is a volume game.
Okay,
Volume leads to growth. Yeah.
okay. Biggest business mistake.
Pricing way too cheap. Trying to be affordable or too cost effective cost me one of my biggest deals. I should have 10x my price. I basically quoted something around 20,000 and I should have made it at least 200,000 or even higher, 250,000, and I would
Yeah.
have secured the deal.
Oh, that's painful. Okay. Best decision you've made.
To try things even when I'm not sure, potentially scared, and to drown out any noise.
Yep. Money or freedom?
That's very interesting. They're linked, right? I would say freedom, but typically to get freedom, you will need a level of money to sustain yourself. So freedom.
Okay. Big vision or small steps?
You need the big vision because that's your North Star. But the
Yeah.
small steps, I want to get to the top of the Mount Kilimanjaro, but the small steps get me there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
big vision, give the direction,
Okay. Plan everything or figure it out as you go.
figure out as I go. Because that's what entrepreneurship is. There's too much movement. You can't plan everything. It's like I've seen that analogy. It's like entrepreneurship, like jumping out of a plane and trying to build the parachute on the way down.
Okay. Yeah. Good analogy. One business skill everyone should learn.
Okay, can I give two? I'm
Go
gonna give
on
two.
then.
One is sales, because sales is everything.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
if you're amazing at sales, you can sell everything to convince a co-founder to work with you, investor to close clients, sales. Second one, I should say, is emotional intelligence.
Mm,
Just if you're good with people and you're likable and you can read people and people of different backgrounds who don't look like you, different ages, all that different stuff, that can get you so far. I've seen that open up a lot of doors.
something entrepreneurs take too seriously.
Having their whole identity tied to their business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why some people can take quote unquote failure or such things that don't work out as well really to heart because they feel like, okay, if the business didn't work out, then I'm a failure. No, this just didn't work out. You're not a failure.
Yeah.
That just failed. You know,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, Muhammad Ali, if he lost a fight, he wasn't a loser, he just lost that fight. Because he's
Yeah.
still that guy that everyone knows decades later.
That's good. I like that one. And then something entrepreneurs don't take seriously enough.
Oh, I think for I think for most of I actually okay, I'm gonna say two things against that too. One, I'm gonna say health. I'm gonna say health because sometimes we almost kill
Oh,
ourselves for a
yeah.
business in
Yeah.
terms of we're not balanced enough of how we look after ourselves. We might not be. eating well, sleeping well, exercising to maintain, because we're the driving force, right? We're the vessel, especially if you're the leader, the CEOs, the founders. So you need to look after yourself to drive that engine. But also, I think most of us underestimate how much reps we need to put in, how much volume we really need to put in. That's what I'd say we don't take seriously enough. Because often we see a movie or we see someone on a TikTok story or Instagram, and it seems like they made two calls and then that Gymshark just went boom. But if you go listen to Ben Francis's story, you'll see what he had to do from the beginning to get Gymshark to where it is. So I think the whole volume game and how long things take, I think it's an overnight story. Like, oh yeah, Gymshark was massive over a year, but Ben Francis will tell you it took like over 10 years
Mm,
to
mm.
get to Gymshark where he wanted it to be.
I like that health one, really do. But that is the quick fire questions done. So I want to thank you so much, Jemiah, for being part of Speak Your Own Business. You've really given us a lot of food for thought and things to think about. And I know some of our listeners, hopefully all of our listeners, will find something practical to take away and hopefully be inspired by this episode. And I just want to just get a little bit before we finish. If someone is listening to this and they're at the beginning of their journey, or they're currently in the middle stage and they're finding it difficult, they're not sure whether to keep going, what would you want them to hear?
I think if it comes to the thing, like if you're at the beginning of the journey, is you've probably grossly underestimated how much it's going to take you to get where you want it to go,
Mm,
which I think we tend to do as humans because everything's easier in theory. Literally, like even if I say, "Hey, I'm going to the bathroom right now," it's easier for me to say it than actually go to the bathroom right now.
yeah.
So I think we can all grossly underestimate how much it takes to get where we want to get to.
Mm,
Using the strength training analogy, like however strong we want to get, or the fitness, how we want, like. So I would say that, and if you're in that phase or you're in that journey, you feel like you're struggling, I would say if you're whether you're starting or whether you're in the middle of the phase, go give yourself the best chance as possible. And the best chance for you possible is trying to maximize how much effort and energy and tenacity you put into your business. So
mm,
don't using a football pitch analogy, don't leave the pitch knowing you could have done more.
yeah.
Don't let the game's finished, the 90 minutes have blown the whistle, the ref's blown the whistle, game's over. You might have lost, drawn, or even won the game, but you know when you come off the pitch, I could have put in more. Don't
Mm,
do the same thing for your business. Like make more calls, make more emails, meet more people, network with more people, try more things, be a decent person, be a great person, work with your team and so forth. Just don't leave it all out on the field. Don't come off thinking, oh, do you know what? I could have done more. Because then you'll minimize your regrets. And once you do that, if it doesn't keep working after that, you can get to a stage where, do you know what, I've actually left it all out in the field. This might not be working for me, or I need to tweak and pivot my strategy. A lot of our successful businesses that we all know, most of them pivoted from there.
mm,
You know, even down these random household items were like pivots from Play-Doh. Play-Doh wasn't originally for children.
yeah.
You know, that was actually that was for another solution. Same with bubble wrap, all these different things that you have, they were all like pivots.
Well, thank you very much again, Jemiah, and thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to Speak Your Own Business. Please do follow us, keep up to date with us on social media. You know where we are. Once again, happy World Entrepreneurs Day to all of them people out there making things happen. We see you and we believe in you.